Hello everyone, episode 28, Road to Super Bowl, Season 3. We are here today with Detroit Lions and we are running towards the end of this season of this show. It's been one hell of a ride, giving you guys information about all 32 franchises. We just have 4 teams left after Lions and I've enjoyed it super much. I hope you did too. If you did, please leave a like, leave a subscription, recommend me to your friends. It would be highly rewarding for me to get this content to as much NFL enthusiasts just like you are. But with that being said, today I'm not going to necessarily start with reviewing the draft because I want to talk about the Lions first. And the reason why I'm going to do that is actually not because of 2024. It's because of the end of 2023 and something that just kind of clicked to me when I was watching Moneyball like 2 weeks ago. And there's a scene where Mr. Hill is approaching Mr. Brad Pitt. It's like asking, after they won 20 in a row, he's like, why are you not celebrating? Why should I? What have we achieved? It's like, we just got a record, we've won 20 in a row, but what's the point? And he explains that if, in case they won't win World Series, they will not win their last game of the season, they will be diminished. They will be make a joke. And that his mentality and his try is he wants to change the game. And then you could see it like in the one of the final titles or like one of the final scenes, like after they've lost the playoff game, there was a lot of talk about, well, they've tried this Moneyball thing, but the hundreds of top talents were saying this could not work, and eventually we got it right. It wasn't working. You cannot win like this, and they tried to diminish what they were able to achieve, and it really felt very similar to Dan Campbell after 2023 season, because when you looked at a lot of the talk shows, it was like, well, every fourth down we're going for it. You just cannot do that, man. It goes against this and it goes against tradition, whatever. They were trying to, because Lions at the end of the day didn't win in 2023, there was some similar type of pushback, and I really felt like, boy, that's really nasty in a way, because kudos to obviously Oakland A's manager, but I think also Billy Bean, of course, but I think of course Dan Campbell kind of changed the league a little bit. Like you've seen much more people trying to go for it, trying to go for fourth down, really accompanying to the game plan. Like on 3rd and 5, like not every team is now trying and attacking the first down marker. There are some run plays, not just throwing the ball. They've in a way they've a little bit changed that, whether it's Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, whatever. But I really wanted to emphasize that because despite Detroit Lions are not, yet again not a 32nd team that we would talk about, which would be in this year Super Bowl winner. Last year it wouldn't because there were some trades with draft picks, but this year it's a Super Bowl winner. I don't think that diminishes what Dan Campbell has accomplished with this team, how he turned this franchise to one of the juggernauts in the league. And I'm a huge Dan Campbell fan. I don't know if it's clear, but I admire him a lot. And they had to endure so much this season. I think this picture actually represents Lions greatly. Like Lion really fighting off, but there has just been too many scars to get to the end. But it was a pleasure to watch Detroit Lions in 2024, especially obviously their offense. But to me, it's just a pleasure to witness the resurface of this franchise, the change of the culture there. And I'm really excited how the disciples of Dan Campbell are going to do, like how Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are going to go and do as a head coach, and obviously what is going to happen with the Lions without those two great minds. So, this sometimes we do these weird intros where we don't go straight into things, and with Lions I really felt like there is something to that. And before we do go towards draft review, I want to remind you one not sentence, but one like kind of an idea that I was pushing in my first episode about the Lions, in first season of the Road to Super Bowl. I was telling you guys that the absolutely key thing that needs to happen for Detroit, that is the key for 2024, is do not lose faith in Dan Campbell. Because after, like I've been with similar situations with the Seahawks, with Pete Carroll, with the infamous throw at the 1-yard line, and it felt like something broke within the organization, like within the franchise, within the trust in that team. And I was saying like, that cannot happen to you Lions. Like that's the one key thing, that if you kind of stay in that we trust you no matter what, that the things are going to get good. And I mean, let's face it, Lions went 15-2. Unfortunately, still it was not enough. With that being said, let's review the draft. Let's go after the 2024 season and how they will look like in 2025. So, we start with Terrion Arnold. I love this pick because it filled a big need, similar to like Eagles. Detroit wanted to revamp their secondary, and it felt like corners were really falling to them at very good places, so it felt like a value as well as a need. And like one good thing about Terrion, like he played the whole season. That's kind of where the good things end. Like this was not a great rookie season for him. I was close to lowering him to just a good backup, but with the way that the defense got depleted, really losing piece after piece during the season, I was like, he really didn't get a super fair chance because, like, obviously, especially pass rushing was just not non-existent, but it was really diminished with all the losses they had. And obviously, when you don't have a pass rush or limited, it's much tougher for your corners, especially your outside corners like Terrion. So he just held on towards a decent starter for me because, like, he was not abysmal, he was playable, but really not a year that I've envisioned for Terrion Arnold. So especially for a team like the Lions, where they are in win now mode, he might find himself on the bench despite being a first round pick even next season. So we will see where the things land with Terrion for next year. Then they went for a couple of other guys, but none of them really got too much playing time. And, on the first slides, I would like to talk about guys that did get interesting playing time, or they did something very exciting with limited playing time. And that's one guy, Christian Mahogany. I mean, 6th round. Like, what were we thinking? Like, this dude was really great value for them. And there are injury concerns. They were injury concerns. Like, he was very limited in terms of how much he was actually be able to be on the field. Luckily for them, it did not matter necessarily much because other guys were able to stay healthy. But when he kind of finally got some opportunities, it was in week 16, and obviously with divisional round, he looked freaking exceptional. Like, I mean, I don't usually put guys' grade up over 1 or 2 games. This was 2 games, and one of the games that really freaking matter. I just stepped in, like none of your guys' business, and he just feels like a starter for this team next season. So really excited about this future, and he really feels like a huge steal so far. But obviously the sample size is so freaking low that we will need to evaluate. And the thing is, when you are in your Super Bowl window, not every team are Philadelphia Eagles, that they look at their most glaring weakness and they are able to draft the most decent players for those weaknesses with value. Well, it doesn't happen for everyone. So Lions draft was not bad, but they didn't really get too much from those guys in year 1. So Giovanni Manu, kind of an obvious huge reach. He didn't get to play first year, but let's be honest, that was never going to be the case if Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell stay healthy, and they did. So, it's kind of, for these guys, it's good. Where it's worrying, it's for Ennis Rakestraw, who was not able to get on the field despite several losses through the whole Lions defense. When he did, he played like 40 snaps. He looked poorly. Like, his grade is about 42, and it's just not a bad grade. Like, he just, even on those limited sample size, like, they were glaring weaknesses in his coverage. So this looked much more ugly than I've anticipated. Obviously, the sample size is like hugely small, which is a kind of weird terminology, sorry for that. But yeah, a little bit of worry about like both of the corners. Like, Terrion was able to get on the field, not played great. Ennis didn't even get on the field, could not get Terrion off the field. And when he played for a couple of snaps, he looked bad. So yeah, that's a bit of a worry for this team. Sianovaki, Mekhi Wingo, none of these guys you expect to bring pretty much anything year one, and they did not. Like, Mekhi Wingo was actually like able to put up below 200 snaps. He looked okay for 6th rounder in them, but not necessarily as a guy that they want to count on, and even like as a rotational piece right now, you probably want to be better than that, especially if you like continue with some injury-prone players like DJ Reader. So that was Lions draft. When I originally ranked it, I liked Christian Mahogany's pick, who looked amazing, and I liked both of the corners. With other guys, it was like, not really certain about, but Lions definitely earned a little bit of benefit of doubt in terms of the way they are drafting. But year one, this draft class, they didn't really deliver. So, part of the reason why we might not talk about Lions as Super Bowl winners. Like, guys, sometimes having cats is really hard because, like, I really don't know what they are doing behind me. I kind of don't want to know. I just hear some noises and it scares me. So let's focus on the Lions and finish this one up. You are not Lions, you know that? Though you behave like that. Okay, back to the draft. If the Lions, somehow manage to get Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell over Terrion Arnold and Eric Rockenstraw, like, obviously the picks doesn't match, they were like in similar area, maybe we talk about them as the Super Bowl winners, who knows? But yeah, that's just that. Overall, like, first year of this draft, not looking very good, Lions. But now let's go towards the roster part of this video. I will talk about Jared Goff, and I know it's going to be controversial that he's in an amazing starter category. I was really thinking about this, whether I want to lower him to important starter or not. And whilst I feel like he's clearly on the bottom of this category, to me he just hang on that grade, because I know there is a lot of pushback, especially because of that very poor divisional playoff game. But what, like, in my eyes, is a little bit less lost in the talk is the area that for half of the season, Lions knew they have to win through offense. Like, their offense need to put up 30 points, otherwise they will probably lose. And there were like some crazy stats where he drove, in one game he threw 5 touchdowns and he lost, and in another game he threw 5 interceptions and won. And it was like first half of the season defense and second half of the year defense. So the pressure that kind of delegates on you is immense. And obviously he has great offensive line, he has great weapons, very, very good or exceptional offensive coordinator he had. So he had a lot of things going for him. So I'm not like putting all the blame out of him, but I really feel like going into almost every single game, and especially against Washington, again, some of the points were obviously after Jared Goff's mistake, but it was clear that Washington is going to score on this defense. So when you are entering the game, I don't know where over was, but it was kind of clear that if Lions want to win, like 20 points is absolute minimum, 30 points is probably what they can get out of, and perhaps they would need 40. So that's a lot of pressure, and I feel like Jared Goff was not like super able to handle that, sometimes perhaps even in his head. But it's like, it's hard. It's not super easy. So to me, he's just on this verge of this tier where I would take him over like Trevor Lawrence. I would take him over Dak Prescott, but I would definitely not take him over CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford, or guys that I have with the rest of this MNC starting category. And for me, he just hanged on. Let me know down in the comments if you disagree, if perhaps I'm wrong of taking Jared Goff over Dak Prescott. Though, I think my one thing that I said about Jared last season is that I would not extend him, and that still to me holds truth, because to me he's exceptional at using what there is for them in terms of this line, but he is much more dependable on that line than perhaps a guy like Jaden Daniels and other guys that I have in this category, and perhaps even some lower guys. So to me, he's not a player that I would extend to what they got, like something around 53 millions a year. That to me is just too much for Jared Goff. Like to me, 45 is just where I would have him. I would probably risk losing him and put some other guy behind this O-line with these weapons, and kind of trying to go for my guys in terms of the draft rather than keep on going with guy that I know is dependable on the O-line, especially that we will not probably be able to keep on going as great as it is right now because of his salary. And I can put a young guy that's going to be much cheaper behind it, and hopefully deliver like 80-90% of the results, but I will have 40 more millions to spend somewhere else. But that's just me. To me, Jared is in that category that I would not extend, just barely. So that's Jared Goff. Now let's go towards this running back room. And boy oh boy, Jahmyr Gibbs, what a freaking player this dude is. He absolutely deservedly jumped into my elite starter category. He was not there before the season started, and he absolutely is. Like, this dude is dynamic as they come. No, actually they don't. Like, I mean, who comes as dynamic as Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, what a freaking pick it was for the Lions. Heavily criticized at that point of time, but they were proven absolutely freaking right. And with league valuing running backs much more, like Jahmyr Gibbs and his contract I think they are like super happy that they have a 50-year option on him, because at this point, if he was entering market, I think 20 millions a year would definitely be on the table for Jahmyr Gibbs. So the fact that they have him on 2 years of absolutely cheap control, like 4 and 5 millions, and then 50-year option is going to be worth like 13 to 15. Yeah, that's a huge value for them, and he's already one of the best running backs in the league, and he might even be like the best weapon that this exceptional offense has. Behind him, David Montgomery, kind of this big guy to your lightning speed, very good complement. Obviously, he gets a lot of touches on the goal line, which is like the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs still has 18 touchdowns is like crazy. They are a huge complement to each other, and yeah, definitely the best running back duo in the league, I would say, despite my huge like for like Bijan and Tyler Algier. I obviously like my guys in Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, but this duo is ahead of them, clearly. So, yeah, best running back room in the league. I mean, you can make an argument, like it's really easy to be great running back behind this line. And I'm not going to lie, it is. Like, they are making it much easier for you, but you still have to make stuff happen. And boy, oh boy, these two guys can deliver. In terms of wide receivers, this was like almost as good a year as you could have hoped from these guys. Yeah, I would say it like that, because Amon continues to be the best clear slot wide receiver in the league He's just such a nuisance, such a help for this team, both as with his hands, but like even he can put his body to work with some run blocking. He is absolutely exceptional for the Lions, and like they extended him before last year, and right now 4 years, 120 million, given the market for other wide receivers, that looks like a bargain. Like that's crazy. Like the wide receiver market really exploded in this offseason. And then Tim Patrick, like I was kind of sad for him to leave Denver, because whenever this guy is healthy, he's good. And I really felt like, yeah, it feels like he's going to be healthy. So why is Detroit getting rid out of him? But they had their plan. They figured it out very, very well. But you can see that in their Road to Super Bowl episode. But for Tim Patrick here, he was just absolutely in his great place for him, because like there was a lot of other guys that the defense needed to focus. And he is savvy veteran. He understands his role. He understands what he needs to do. Some tough third down catches, but he can just absolutely use the pressure that the other guys are putting on opposing defenses and really finding his spots within the defense, and know that both Ben Johnson and Jared Goff will throw at him 4 times a game, but that is going to be very good catches for good yards, and that they will not like need to overexert him. Like he doesn't have to play every run, he doesn't have to like run block too much. So they were able to keep him healthy for, almost all the season. And he was just a very nice piece for this offense that like has a huge plethora of weapons. He just completed that very, very nicely. And when I say as good as it kind of could have, Jameson Williams, he stayed out of trouble off the field. He like finally kind of gave in terms of like putting his head down, focus on the football. And I know it came like a year later than you would like to for a first round pick. This was his third season, but he was not only its speedster, he really was able to use the threat of his speed towards his advantage. And like especially in this team that is like, I don't think there is as many weapons for like 5 to 20 yards down the line, or like 0 to 15 yards down the line of scrimmage. Samuel Porter, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Tim Patrick, like the guys that live in this space and are exceptional in this space. Like I don't think other teams has that many options for this particular type of space. And then obviously everybody's going to think, okay, Jameson Williams, he's that guy that goes over the top, so we need to cover his speed and his deep threat ability. But if you are smart, and whether it was Jameson who was smart about it or Ben Johnson, it's like, okay, they will always think that I will go deep, so they will probably give me much more space for short throws. Let's just freaking use that, right? They were able to do so. Jameson got some of his targets, and the fact that he's so quick, like you can use it if a guy is like 5 yards from you just because he doesn't want to get a run for a touchdown, and you are able to receive the ball, well, you still can use the speed, right? So yeah, they really find a very nice ways how to utilize Jameson Williams. He was great for them, and this offense just was absolutely freaking complete and great. So for what they needed, this wide receiver room delivered. Now let's go towards the tight ends. Calif Raymond, kind of a backup option for them. Like he delivered some good snaps for a wide receiver 4, but he was a bit of an afterthought in this offense. Sam Laporta, there were guys, kind of me included, that felt like, well, maybe this is going to be a year in which Sam Laporta ascends towards being an elite tight end. He's not quite there yet, in my eyes. I think he's amazing. That's why I put him in. But I feel like he played kind of on very similar level to where he was last year, which really cements him in this category, because now we have much more sample size. He can do it. I wanted slightly more if I am able to move him upstairs. Still, this means that he's one of the 8 best tight ends, even by my grades, but he just was not able, in my mind, to reach that elite level yet. But he was still really freaking good for this team. And as they kind of tend to do. They made a very good job bringing much more of a blocker specialist in Brock Wright next to him. He was a guy that they were able to sneak from San Francisco, and he was solid. I'm not going to say that he was one of the best blocking tight ends. Like, he had some deficiency, like probably more than I expected, but he was a smart, very cheap pickup that really, like similar to Tim Patrick. Like, is he a guy that you will run the offense through? No, but you exactly know why you are bringing him. He completes this whole picture, and like, you might not notice it on like a first or second glance, but on a third glance, they just give it another layer that just makes it much more of a masterful piece. So that was Brock Wright. Now let's go towards this offensive line, and so Taylor Decker, like, yeah, he's bad. Like, he's not even top 10 left tackle, right? Yeah, he's not. Like, he really is not. But that just says that position is just freaking insane. He is still supreme. Like, I mean, everybody is happy that Taylor Decker is there. They could have an idea of replacing him with Giovanni Manu in the future. Well, they extended him before the 2024. So I thought like that might have been like the idea that Taylor Decker is kind of going to get his final snaps with the Lions, perhaps not necessarily in 24, but perhaps in 25. But they clearly are, like, obviously they want to reward their guys. That's one thing that could really bite them in the ass in the long term, because with Decker, with Goff, it's like, it seems like they kind of want to keep everyone. I'm not sure that's actually possible with how much the other stars will demand. Perhaps there's like such a great unity that everyone kind of takes a discount. Like, I would not necessarily say that about Jared Goff's extension, to be fair. So I'm not super sure about this move in terms of, not is Taylor Decker worth 20 million a year? Yes, he is. But in terms of, does it mean that you cannot, I don't know, extend Kerry Joseph, or perhaps you risk losing Brian Branch or someone like that? We will see. But for now, he's definitely great left tackle. He's going to be 32 when entering the next year. So there are a little bit of questions about his age. There is a way out of that contract after this season, so after like 2025. But for what he was in 2024, you have not seen a decline at all. But now let's focus on Penei Sewell. Okay, Lane Johnson is probably still better overall right tackle in the league, but yeah. Like, what is there to say about Penei? Like, he's freaking insane. Like, he is freaking insane. Yeah, like, what do you want me to add? Like, it's just really, like, for some players, you just have a lot to talk about. With Penei, I really don't. Like, it's like, he embodies Lions culture. He is, from what I know, sound human off the field. Like, there was never like anything off the field. He entered the league in his 20, like as a 20-year-old. He develops every single year. He's got, like, he doesn't miss games. Like, like, you can write down every pluses that you want to. Like, could he be a better pass protector? Well, slightly, I guess, yes. But other than that, the fact that this guy was out there as a 7th pick, yeah. Let's just give you guys some context of who was drafted ahead of him. So Trevor Lawrence makes sense. Zach Wilson, that didn't really work out. Trey Lance, oh yeah, okay. Kyle Pitts, I bet Atlanta would like him. Jamar Chase, okay, fair. Jalen Waddle, great player. Penei Sewell, number 7. Like, then it's Penei Sewell, JC Horn, Pat Surtain. Like, what a trio after some of the guys. But that's always like, the highest picks are usually quarterbacks. So, and with the other picks, like definitely Jamar Chase, you can argue that he's on the same level and on the same trajectory as Penei Sewell. for him, it's like, yeah, I think he's going to be a lifetime Lion. I don't really see him like leaving, even in like a future, because like he just embodies this. Like if they are ever so like good, I feel like it's with Penny, and like he signed 4 years, 112 millions, under 30 millions. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but this offseason, then more signed 4 years, 80 millions. Like then more 80 millions for 4 years. Penny Sewell 110 millions for 4 years. I mean, nothing against Dan Moore. Good for him that he got his his money, like all for him. But for Penny, this really feels like one of those deals that it doesn't look like, but to me he just take a pay cut, because like he's over 30 million of a year type of player. Like he is just freaking insane, and he will continue to do so. I would not want to rush against him, and he's signed to like 2029 with them. So yeah. Like I would not want to be an edge rusher in this division. Let's say it like that. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't. Like the amount of great offensive lines, like with the way Bears were able to handle this offseason, and like Vikings are definitely solidifying their interior. Like this at this point is probably the best O-line division in the whole sport. So now let's move towards interior, and Lions have yet another elite player in there, in Frank Ragnow. I mean, again, I would probably take in vacuum Creed Humphrey over him. Like if I am there for like one game, who gives me a better chance to win? Is it Creed Humphrey or Frank Ragnow? I take Creed Humphrey, but it doesn't mean that Frank Ragnow is an elite. Like again, just like with Panay, like there are some slight deficiency in his pass pro. That's probably where Creed would take a notch over him. But in terms of run blocking, like what a nuisance this guy is. Now let's switch to Kevin Zeitler, who was their kind of 1 year, actually very cheap veteran signing, around like 10 millions. And like Kevin Zeitler and Morgan Moses are two guys that I just cannot figure out, like how are these guys getting paid such a small amount? Like Kevin Zeitler, even this offseason, after having one of the best years of his career in like 35 or whatever he is, how does he get 9 millions a year? Again, like I'm not going to, like I don't want to like shade Dan Moore, but let's use his contract. So he has average of 20 millions a year, and I understand with Zeitler it's age, right? Like okay, but why the hell? It's like he's like I don't know, one multi-year contract is like 1 year. Like there is no, like if I go down, if I retire, there's nothing after that. So how the hell am I only getting 9 millions? Like it doesn't make sense. Obviously, like guard tackle, but still, Kevin Zeitler had probably his best tape as a run blocker. Like this was kind of interesting, because in terms of what like Kevin Zeitler was like thought of before the season, was like still one of the better pass protecting right guards in the league. Well, top 5 almost, like in this category, but had deficiencies potentially with like slower feet in terms of some of the run blockings. And in this year, like he was a special linebacker. Obviously, the dudes around you are going to like help you with that, but it was kind of a turnaround. Like in pass pro, it was like, yeah, he had some shady moments, but in terms of run blocking, he was freaking awesome. So really interesting that first of all they were not able to bring him back. I really thought they would be able to, and secondly, like how he's getting 9 millions a year in this market, I just don't get it. So Kevin Zeitler, I would fire your agent. I think you are worth much more than that, and great for the Titans to get you. But let's move to Graham Glasgow. And one of the part why I was like, okay, Christian Mahogany showed a lot of promise in his two starts, and well, if we can bring Kevin Zeitler back, perhaps we can let go Graham Glasgow, because his year was kind of meh, and like his good starter grade is definitely up in the air for my summer review. So he was clearly the problem on this online. Like 4 out of 5 situations in which you would be like, okay, there is some pressure on Jared Goff, you probably turn your head on Graham Glasgow. And frankly, I kind of expected them that they could move on from him. The fact is, like, he's kind of fairly cheap. Like, for a still solid guard, like, he's not unplayable or anything like that. And obviously, if you have such a great line, if he's your weakest link, you can absolutely deal with that. And for that, like, you are paying $7 million a year. So they're probably happy to get a new nice production. And he feels like, despite kind of bad year, he feels like still a solid signing for this offense. Then skipper, kind of nice veteran rotational piece. And Christian Mahogany, we already talked about him. I see a bright future for him in this Lions offense. Overall, this offense was obviously super fun to watch. I would not want to defend that. I don't think there was a team that had more points scored in the year. I think they were clearly the leaders. Let me recheck on that one, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 564. That was 39 points more than second Buffalo Bills. You know, once again, there were times that they absolutely needed it. For when they played Bills, it was 42-48. So clearly the offense needed to put up, and you know, they absolutely freaking did. Now let's shift towards defense. So we start with Aiden Hutchinson. Like, if you look at his numbers, 8 sacks, 12 stops, you would be like, 8 sacks? Dude, that's like really good edge 2 for a whole year. And then you look, this guy didn't even play 300 snaps. Like, he was freaking feasting. Like, whoever put in front of him, Aiden Hutchinson was like, yeah, you are not going to have a fun night or afternoon or wherever they played. And then he got injured. And the fact that they were able to recover from that, in terms of, like, they still won 15 games even without Hutch. How much would they win with him? Like, obviously this season is going to be a lot of what ifs for the Lions, and the huge one starts with Aiden Hutchinson. I just hope that he is able to come back at the same level as when he went down, because that was a freaking specimen to watch. And as like a year ago, I felt like I see only Micah Parsons reaching the level that I have Myles Garrett at, like, really, even against the Bosas, Watts of the world, like, I still have Myles Garrett that is like slightly above them, just slightly. After what I've seen from my Hutch, well, dude might be there somewhere, might be there some way. So we will see. I just hope he's going to come back super strong. Marcus Davenport, they gave him very cheap contract, but at this point, it's like, I mean, I do understand taking risks on players, but this was like, his body unfortunately just cannot hold the NFL level yet again. He just went down after 2 games, and they diverged. They brought Zadarius Smith in, who, like, kind of like they were playing, like, bringing a lot of veterans, some of the chopping blocks, some of the streets, to try to fill the roles. Because, I mean, obviously with like Marcus Davenport, like, in theory, like, you're expecting to always have Aiden Hutchinson. So if he goes down, pretty much, like, if we get someone to just play solidly, semi-solidly or something like that, we should still be good. But, you know, when Hutch went down and Davenport, like, even earlier than that, there was not, and like, who has a backup plan for this, right? So the other guys needed to step up, and they did, especially Alan McNeil. Like, he was exceptional in his, it was his 3rd year, I think, or 4th. Okay, so yeah, so it was his 4th season with the Lions, and he really stepped it up. They needed someone to generate pressure for this team, because, like, they're huge off-season signing in DJ Reader, another, like, injury-prone guy that, you know, like, if you compare him to Davenport, like, he was more expensive, but definitely higher upside in theory, and also like his injury proneness is smaller than Marcus Davenport. But he was just a really good run defender, but really you didn't get too much out of him from in terms of pass rush perspective. So with Hutch going down, Davenport going down, like they really needed someone to like threaten the QB, and Allen McNeil was able to do that. Unfortunately, even he did not survive the whole season and went down. I think it was week 15. Let me check on that one. Yeah, he went down week 15. And after that, it was just like you kind of got your hopes up with how they were like able to handle and feast on the Vikings. But then you need to realize like the Vikings O-line was pretty bad, depleted with injuries, and not great, especially in terms of interior to begin with. And the scheme from Alan Glenn, they really had an amazing game plan, and Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts. So yeah, you got your hopes up, but there was still this lurking thought on the top of your mind, like this defense probably will give up another 40 burger in the future because the talent just is not there. The ability to rush the passer was very, very limited. I mean, Levi on Wuzurike, like this guy really stepped it up. Like they needed guys to step in. So when Hatch went down, McNeil really stepped it up. When McNeil went down, Wuzurike really stepped it up. But now you are taking guys who were supposed to be rotational pieces, like really nice presence from the bench, and you're expecting them to, hold on with Jaden Daniels and really give pressures on him. So as much as they got some good playing times from guys that, you didn't necessarily expect to be great, it just was not enough. And it's shown, unfortunately, in the playoff game, and obviously offense did not help that. So that was pretty much the D-line. Trevor Nowaske was playing almost 400 snaps, or like almost 350. I mean, that kind of says where they were. Like nothing against Trevor in terms of like, undrafted guy from 2023. So he got his time to shine. But he's not a guy that should be playing for a team. Or like if he plays 5 snaps a game, maybe he can play for a team that's going to win the Super Bowl. But when you need to get like 46 snaps of him, 20 snaps of him, 15 snaps of him, the offenses will take advantage of that. Now let's shift towards the linebackers, and here the talk is mostly positive. Jack Campbell really in his second year showing to be one of the best run defending linebackers. Really, this, I feel like if Dan Campbell was on the field, he would play very similarly to Jack Campbell. No, they are not related, but really physical guy that perhaps deserved even more praise than raising him to a good starter. Definitely guy I had on my summer watch. I want to see how much him not really like I was thinking that perhaps with a lack of pressure from the D-line when all of the guys went down, they could have utilized some of these linebackers, with some great blitzes or like even something like that, and they really did not tap into that. So I want to I know it's not necessarily each of the guys' game, but you need to generate pressure sometime somewhere, and the D-line with the amount of injury just wasn't able to do so effectively. So I will watch more of Jack Campbell during the summer. I'm definitely excited about that. Alex Anzalone, kind of the steady veterans that they kind of brought, I would say, as an insurance policy last season to bring back a guy with probably the best hair in the league. Really very, very solid player. They are happy to have him. He's maxed out at this. He probably is going to fall to decent starter eventually. Malcolm Rodriguez, when we talk, he might have one of the best smiles in the league. Low draft pick from 2022. He had shown some flashes in first year. Then they kind of went Jack Campbell first round, Alex Anzalone's back. So Malcolm Rodriguez opportunity was like, okay, guys, I'm probably not going to play too much. He didn't. In his second year, he was able to play some games. He had some troubles with injuries, or like feasting on like other guys being injured. And here he was out there. He was kind of, I would say, poor man version of Jake Campbell, like really hard in terms of his run defense and a bit too tough in coverage for a guy that you perhaps want to start. So we'll see. I don't necessarily feel like they are a great blend together with Malcolm and Jake Campbell, but they use a lot of rotations with the linebackers. So we will see how they will figure it out, and it's going to be his contract year. So definitely wish the best for Malcolm. Now let's go towards safeties, and yet another guy who you might consider that I didn't like tune up to like as much as I should have in Kerby Joseph. Was there a safety playing better than Kerby Joseph this season? Like, it's going to be hard. Sometimes I'm really harsh on Pro Bowl, but with like how much this defense was getting scored on, and him like being drowned behind some more famous names, I'm super glad that he got into Pro Bowl, because like he freaking deserved it. So like if he was going to be snubbed, like that would be, similar to like Antoine Winfield last season. So like it can happen, but I'm super happy that it didn't for Kerby Joseph. He was freaking outstanding. Best coverage corner in the league for this season. When you try to throw at him, that was not a right option to do. Like, just his passer rating, like when this guy was targeted 71, like that's I don't know, like that's I don't know. Okay, that's like Anthony Richardson's number. Like that's lower than Anthony Richardson's number. That's like way too low. Like that's really freaking crazy. And saying like the same thing about Brian Branch. Like as a duo, this was best safeties in the league. The great thing, he was not even penalized, just 2 penalties, to 9 interceptions, like 2 pass breakups. He had exceptional individual season. The thing is, like he's in the league for 3 years. Like his first year, he looked very solid. Then his second year was very meh. And now he played like, almost the best safety in the league. So I was not really sure if I should, if important starter is enough. Yet another guy I have on my watch list that I really, it's like hard to evaluate on like first and second go after the season, after the 17 games you watched. And, it's like a lot goes into preparation for this video. So you cannot go about every single guy, every single tape. So that's more for summer. But for Kerby, again, on my watch list. The same goes for Brian Branch, because he was definitely on trajectory to become an elite starter in my grades. And then second half of the year happened, and he was sometimes, I don't want to say liability, but he was sometimes a problem, and he definitely did not continue to play as great as he was like first half of the season. And I'm pretty sure that the reason was much more about like the other guys going down, and Aaron Glenn and potentially even Brian Branch himself, like asking too much of himself. Like he tried to do everything kind of, and when you try to juggle 20 balls instead of 8, you're probably going to drop much more of them than you should. So still, I might go up with him, because like what he was doing might not have been like necessarily his fault, but we will see. Again, like next to Kerby Joseph, I will be watching them a lot over the summer. He had, for what it's worth, he had a great game, at least, against Washington. But pretty much like since week 8, like he was really good against Texans, exceptional against the Commanders. But other than that, he was kind of struggling. So really interesting to watch how much things went out of the rails for him. If it was just like him too much looking perhaps for trying to jump the ball, trying to really get that interception, or trying to like go for the riskier play rather than secure play, because he knew that they need to deliver something. He fell to Melifonwu, with the way both Joseph and Branch was playing, there was not many opportunities for him to get in. When he did, he was solid. In terms of corners, Carlton Davis, I would say, was kind of like as good 1 year signing as they could have hoped. Again, I feel like with him, it was never necessarily about like a longevity with the Lions, as they were probably not like super prepared to bring him back. Like when you look at how they kind of do these things, like look at Kevin Zeitler and Darius Smith, it's like, let's bring some of the veterans in and have them great for 1 year, but mostly of them, they don't retain them. I don't think they even retain Tim Patrick. So it was always like kind of 1 year rental, and he was really solid for them. They needed very solid for like number one corner. Like, again, in ideal world, he's going to be number 2, and that's what he's going to do for the Patriots from next year behind Gonzo. So great season, yet another guy that they just could not count on for the playoffs because he was injured. Amik Robertson, kind of similar story, like for what he is and what they brought him for, like very solid player. You could not expect too much out of him. Like there was how to say it nicely, like there was never expectations that he would suddenly become this great corner, but he did his job very solidly for, again, like very cheap. They brought him for like 2 years, 9 million, so it's like 4.5 a year, kind of the piece that, if he's not playing, you are okay with like stomaching 4.5 millions off the bench, and he's kind of, if anybody goes down, he's there and he's going to be solid for you. And he was. So good news. And they really needed that because Darren Arnold, he just wasn't good. Kind of window. Yeah. Really did not expect him to be good. And Eric Rakenstraw, like he was kind of nowhere to be found. So, like they tried to like hugely overhaul this whole cornerback room. And some went well, especially Carlton Davis, but some was kind of meh. And as of right now, they were facing a huge question how they will fix it. They've done some things in free agency that we will discuss in a free agency covering episode. But for 2024, with pass rushers going down, with the with the pressure of the opposing QBs was not nowhere to be found, but very limited. Obviously, it was much harder for corners, so that's why I'm just not giving up on Darren Arnold at any capacity. Still, it could have been much better. With that being said, now let's hand out some rewards. And we already said it, like in terms of draft hits, that just was a very slim picking because it's pretty much 3 guys that played over 100 snaps and just 1 guy that played over 200 snaps. But at the end of the day, I really feel so good about Christian Mahogany, and I actually believe that they are too, that he could be their starter for next years. He showed enough. I mean, obviously you need to evaluate how much the injuries might derail his future. So like if you can really count on him. But in terms of how he looked when he played, for a 6th rounder, he definitely feels like a hit, or definitely the closest thing to hit that Lions had. In terms of draft blunder, I went for Rakenstraw. Like, if you cannot make it towards this group, like even Candle Window has, like 300 more snaps than you, there probably something really didn't click for year 1. Like obviously, it can click in future years. He was not necessarily like super young, not even super old. Like he was 22 when he was being drafted, so like kind of in the middle age for draft prospects. Yeah, it worries me that he was not able to carve out some play. In terms of cornerstone of this franchise, like I guess you can make so many arguments for other guys. Like there is so many players that could be that. But when I was thinking about this award for this specific team, I kind of went back towards what I was talking about in the beginning. And I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs kind of helps to transform some of the vision that we have on running backs in terms of how small they kind of can be, how they can really use speed. And I really feel like that's what like kind of gave him almost an unfair edge, because usually this is about like how great of a year you had. Jahmyr Gibbs, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra, they all had Kirby Joseph, like they all had exceptional season. And like they are all guys that you can build around, obviously. So when I was like thinking about this, it's like, well, this is really tough. So I was really looking like what differentiate them like, for me. And you could say Penei embodies the most. But then it's like Amon-Ra too, right? And for me, like Jahmyr actually kind of too, because despite being super small, like try to bring this guy down. Like that's freaking tough. And like he was not supposed to be kind of a guy that embodies Detroit and embodies this mentality, but he kind of does. So that's what win him over for me. I just feel like that you can have all like several other guys competing for this award, but at the end of the day, this is what won it to me for Jahmyr Gibbs. In terms of unsung hero, I went for Kevin Zeitler because with Graham Glasgow actually kind of playing solidly / poorly, if they would not hit on him, if he was another guy that like similar to Marcus Davenport, his like health would not hold up. With Christian Mahogany, at like for most of the season he was not available. Like that could have been a real problem for this team. And not only that he was able to stay healthy, good for him, but he put up a great special run blocking tape for the whole season, something that I was not expecting of him. I had him like highly ranked. I loved the signing for as cheap as it was. Like cheap, reasonably cheap. I think it was like 1 year, 10 million, something like that. But he really impressed me. And why is he unsung hero? Like not really many people actually talk about Kevin Zeitler. And I mean, even in terms of like market value, he feels like super underrated. So that's the reward for Kevin Zeitler. He probably won't buy much for it, but at least here we believe he's freaking great. In terms of flop, like it was hard to choose someone. At the end of the day, I went for Marcus Davenport, mostly because it felt like they're counting on him much more than they should based on like his injury history. So I'm not saying like you have to have a plan for Hutchinson and Davenport go down, but I don't really feel like he should be in your plans in a way. Like the chances of him playing over 300 snaps to me was like 25%. So in my eyes, like if he's there, great, we can definitely freaking use him. But I'm not building the edge room with the idea that he's even there. I feel like they kind of did. So to me, that's what earned this reward. But at the end of the day, like I don't really know who didn't step up on this team. Like especially with a lot of guys going down, a lot of guys needed to step up, and like pretty much everyone that like I don't have single guy that I was expecting to play great and he was bad. Like you can talk about DJ Reader. I kind of expected slightly more from him. You can talk about Graham Glasgow, of course, but like the expectations was not like supreme for him. I mean, I really like this was really tough award to kind of award. So with that being said, let's look at the franchise overall, how I like it. With Dan Campbell, I said it with several other guys that are just not this either offensive or defensive gurus in my eyes. And like for Dan Campbell, we will see it this year. Like he's lost both of his super highly praised coordinators. How can he replenish that? Can Lions stay on track? I think if they do so, I might add the plus next to his name. I freaking love Dan Campbell. In terms of 2024, obviously, like everybody was like talking about Lions as potential Super Bowl team, and like they won 15 games, right? But to me, it was as much as they could have gone in terms of like reasonably. Like of course they were favorites against Washington and the offense could have pulled it out, but I think them going on a three games streak and win everything with that depleted defense was always going to be a stretch. So to me, I don't necessarily hold that loss against Commanders against them, because there were just too many injuries in my eyes to overcome on one side of the ball. Like I think if it gets more spread out, you can deal with it better. But this was just too brutal. Ward really dinks this from me, because like otherwise it was exceptional. Like so many progress from guys. But what dinks the grade for me, well, slightly, it's against Commanders the loss, but slightly it's like they didn't like get too much from this rookie class. So that's what makes it a B for me. In terms of QB, I think they are in a situation where they have a highly paid quarterback that I would not pay, but for the system they are at, the still great O-line that they have secured for a couple of years to go, I don't think you can call the situation negative for them. It's just a slight positive, like compared to what you are bringing. So despite like me saying I would pay 45 million, it's much more in the area like because of his contract, I feel like you will lose someone else. Not necessarily that he is not like worth great money, but if I should have a choose of like, do I flip and go with like Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields of the world and save 45 millions, or do I go with Jared Goff? I would probably choose the first option, or go with draft picks. That's even more. But yeah, that's just my thinking. It can be kind of counterintuitive that I didn't lower him from that, but there was just too much other like circumstances for him. Like definitely if if the defense is okay and it's like they are expected to win if they score 25 points, 27, whatever, and Jared Goff makes such a stinker, like I definitely lower him, and he's probably neutral here. But I think like I've made my points about Jared Goff. In terms of hot seat, like I cannot see Lions getting rid of Dan Campbell. Like, if they go 3 times 0-17, then maybe we can talk about this. But until then, I don't really see him going in the near future. In terms of finances, when they were at the off season, which is when I'm doing this, it really felt like the money are stretched, though they have a lot of guys paid. So there were some weaknesses, especially like cornerback room, where with the rookies not necessarily stepping up, which is part of the finances as well. Well, like if you have a great rookie class, it helps your finances because you have, let's say 5 starters for $2 million in terms of cap hit every single year. That kind of helps. They don't have that, so that's where the finances are a little bit stretched, though they have their top guys paid. So it's like kind of okay situation for them. Strength of this team, I think it's top. What the top means, it's like I don't think any team has as many elite starter by my grades in the league. I don't think anyone has as much as the Lions have, and I even have like one guy that might even enter that trajectory in Brian Branch when I do summer review. But you talk about Jamar Gibbs, you talk about Penei Sewell, you talk about Franengo, you talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, you talk about Aiden Hutchinson. So it's 5 elite players. I don't think there's other team that has that in my grades. I might be wrong, but I don't really think so. In terms of division, it might be surprised that I actually went for neutral, because a lot of people out there is calling this division, like super, super tough. And like, don't get me wrong, it's not an easy division, but when I really think about it, it's like, well, Bears have a first-year head coach. Like, obviously, there is huge hype around him, but it's still first-year head coach. It's some problems in terms of ownership after unfortunately passing away of the owner, and it's still kind of the Bears. And even if I assume that they are like going to be good, like they still feel like about the middle of the pack team. And unfortunately, I would say probably the same with the Packers. Like several injuries that might derail future with their wide receivers. Do I feel like they are a top 10 team in the league? I don't. And with the Vikings, again, like there is a lot of uncertainty with them. I mean, but are they like, would anyone put them as a top 10 team? So I feel like this is a situation in which like you have kind of three middle of the pack team. Perhaps Packers could be around the top 10. Bears definitely have that upside. With Vikings, like there's an upside, but like what is JJ McCarthy? What will we going to see? So to me, surprisingly, when I really thought about this from Lions perspective, it's like it could have been worse, you know. So that to me is kind of from their perspective, it's neutral. Like if you are looking for from perspective of other teams and you have to face Lions, who are in my eyes still a juggernaut, that's that's a different conversation. So this is always from the perspective of the team. Now let's take a look at what their 2025 could look like. And I will remind you guys, I'm putting this out before the pre-agency started. It's just, it takes a lot of time to film this and get it to you guys. So, free agency as of right now is like 1 week in the process. But I will always have rosters based on how I did predict to go with them. So I was thinking that they could go with Christian Mahogany as their starter, though at the end of the day I was like, I'm not certain of that, so I rather put him on bench and we will see like how they figure it out the rest of the offensive line. I feel like they will keep Graham Glasgow given that his contract is actually quite cheap, and for that I think he is a solid player. The rest is pretty much locked in. In terms of offense, again, you look at this and this is locked in. Like Amon-Ra is their best guy. Jameson, they hope that he's going to improve even more. Wide receiver 3 is probably going to be some cheap option, just like Tim Patrick was. They could go with Khalif Raymond or someone like that. And you count on your two exceptional running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery as this is always 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and wildcard for the offense. For this offense is obviously David Montgomery and Samuel Porta. So like there is 5 players that are absolutely stepped in. In terms of backups, Khalif Raymond, Brock Wright, Christian Mahogany. I feel like both Christian Mahogany and Khalif Raymond could be, kind of by not spending on their position, they could be starters, like 3rd wide receiver for Raymond, starting guard for Mahogany. But I'm not really certain that that's how they will address it, especially with Mahogany and his health concerns. I do not put it past them that they will actually go for a guard even as high as in the first round, because with Graham Glasgow, his age is getting there, and he's a solid player for the money you are paying him, but you want to upgrade on him. So the fact that you have Mahogany as a potential development guard that you can even start with does not really take away a possibility of drafting another guard. In terms of defense, I actually thought that they would keep Zadarius Smith on the roster. I don't think he's exceptional, but in a situation that you are not necessarily gunning for Myles Garrett, or you are not able to persuade him, which always felt a little bit of stretch that he would go here, or that they would somehow did that. I felt like keeping Zadarius as your second edge and kind of develop guys after him, perhaps trading him on the deadline, or just fade him into pass rush specialist later in the year. That could have been the path. With DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, and Aiden Hutchinson, there's I just don't see these guys anywhere. Obviously, the one slight question mark is after the season that DJ Reader had, will they keep him? But I think his cap hit is low enough that he is still worth that. In terms of linebackers, I think they really like this duo of Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell. There's really not something I expect that they would invest in or change these two guys from being starters. In terms of secondary, you have your clear safeties in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. I feel like Amik Robertson did absolutely well enough to keep him on the roster for relatively cheap. Darren Arnold, you've invested in him. He was not super bad, so yeah, I expect these 4 guys to be starters, and they kind of need at least 1 new piece to the secondary. I can say that they've managed to bring a guy that I really like, but we'll talk about him more in the free agency episode. In terms of backups, really, that is, yeah, I'm sorry for Ennis. This is wrong for him. Sorry, he played only 46 snaps, so I'm not sure what this is. My mistake. But the other guys, like, these are good rotational players. I mean, the one guy that I'm excited about the most is like Malcolm Rodriguez. Like, can he like put it all together in his 4th year? Get say hello to the Lions. We will see. Overall, this lineup still looks freaking insane. It has glaring weaknesses that I feel like they will address in the offseason or within the draft, and I think Lions are definitely not going anywhere. With that being said, the episode is over. Thank you very much for listening. I've enjoyed this one. Unfortunately, like, Lions are not my team, but I feel like they are such a good field story that there are very few of us that are not rooting for them when our team goes out. Bye bye and have a nice day.